Today in part 2, we want to talk about rounding to a specified decimal place or rounding to a certain number of significant figures. So we're just going to start with a value that might show up on our calculator that's going to have too many digits. So I just picked something at random and I put tangent of 57. Specifically, I was looking for something with a 9 in it somewhere near the front. And so this one 1. So let's say we have the tangent of 57. The calculator is going to return more information than we need. This is an unreasonable number of decimal places to write down, but for practice, we're going to write them down. 1.539886. I actually kind of want the 49 in there. And that's going to require that I just go all the way out to the 64. So one of the ways that I'll ask you to round things off is to a specified decimal place. So we need to know the names. The 5 is the 10th. The first place after the decimal place is called the 10th. And then they're just powers of 10 with a at the end. 10th, 100th. I have to alternate. It's the TH that puts it on the other side of the decimal point. 10th, 100th, 1,000. And so on. This is usually where, if I'm naming places, this is usually where I'll stop. The 10th, the 100th, or the 1,000th. The next one just be the 10,000. And then the 100,000. So whatever space I want you to round to, that's where you have to stop your number. If I say round to the nearest 100, you have to write 2 digits after the decimal point. You look at where you're going to stop, and all you look at is the next digit. So whatever place you're rounding to, that's where you stop writing the number. And the next place tells you whether to go to the next one or to stay where you are. So whatever place is called for, that's where you stop writing the number. You look at the next digit and only the next digit to decide if you've gone past halfway. If you've gone past halfway, keep going. If you haven't gone past halfway, go back. So whatever place is called for, you stop writing there. The next digit tells you whether you need to go up or stay. Sometimes this is referred to as rounding down. You're just stopping. You could think of it as rounding down as going back to where you were. The question is, are you past halfway? If you are, keep going. That's the one way to think about it. are you past halfway? Past halfway means the next digit is a 5 or more. If the next digit is a 5 or more, you are past halfway and you keep on going. So if I want to round this number, tangent of 57 degrees, to the nearest tenth, the 10th spot is is the 5. So I'd write 1.5. 3 is less than 5. We have not reached halfway, so we just go back to the previous 10th. We stop at 1.5. Three says stay at the 5. The next place after the 5 is the 10th spot is a 3, and 3 says stay at 5. If I wanted to round this number to the nearest 100, I need to write 2 places after the decimal. So I'd write the 5, and then I would want to write one more number. I want to write 3, but the number after that is a 9. That's past halfway. So go to the next one all the way up to 1.54. The 9 says keep going to the 4. If I wanted to round this number to the nearest 1,000, I need to write 3 digits after the decimal point. So I write the 5, then the 3, and then the decision comes down to the, oops, I don't want 3, do I? What's actually going to happen to that 3? I need to write 3. So I'd want to write 1.539. But the 8, the number after the 9 is more than 5. We've passed halfway. What we want to see ourselves in between is 39 and 40. We're between 39 and 40. The 8 says we've gone past halfway, keep going to 40. So I need to push the 9 up to a 10, which pushes the 3 up to a 4. So I'd write 1.540. The 8 says, don't go back to 39, keep going to 40. You want to see what this number, how this number is built. The consecutive numbers to the nearest 1,000 are 1.539, and then the next one, 1.540. Read not just the 9, because it's a 9, you have to read the one before it. You can't just read it as between 1.5 and 1.6, or 1.53 and 1.54, 1.539 and 1.540. But the next one, if it's more than 5, it's 5 or more, not more than 5. If it's 5 or more, that means you've passed halfway, so keep going. 8 is past halfway, so we keep going. Any questions? It's always only the next one. Sometimes you have to read the previous 2 digits. Am I going between 3 and 4? If one of them is 9, it's between not just the 9, it's a 39 and 40. Those are the 2 nearest thousands. One of the tricky things that you want to do, one of the tricky things that we sometimes fall into is that we only go to the next one. So if I wanted to round to this place 6, the next digit's a 4, it's less than 5, we have not reached halfway, so we stay at 6. Even though right after the 4 is a 9, and if I wanted to round to this spot, the 4, the 9 would push that up to a 5. 49 is less than halfway. We haven't gone halfway, so we just go back to the previous one. Any questions? So we really want to imagine the number line when we're trying to decide how to round. It's always between 2. This first one, the question is, do we do 1.5 or 1.6? The next one is 1.53 or 1.54. The next one is 1.539 or 1.540. Sometimes when it comes down to rounding, if you get confused about how the rounding is going to work, think about the 2 that you're trying to decide between. And that helps sometimes. Any questions? Yes. Always only round the final answer. So over time, you'll build a sense of how many digits you need to carry on. One thing that's handy is that if I needed to use this number again, let's say I needed to multiply by 7 or something like that. If I do 7 times and say, oh, I don't want to type all that stuff, if you just press second enter for entry, oops. Oh, being a jerk. Oh, sorry, not entry. ANS. I could just do 7 times. If I happen to hit 7 times first and I want the previous thing, I can just press second and then the minus sign. Above that, it says answer. I'm not showing you what I'm typing. Above the minus sign brings up ANS. And that'll be just the previous one. That way you don't have to type in all the digits. Eventually, you'll get a sense about how many digits you need. So knowing that the final answer has to be rounded to the nearest 10th, you'll probably be fine with just doing 1.53540 and using that in your calculations. Notice that we've replaced the 1.539864964 button with now a 10.77905475 button, which is a very specific button that doesn't last very long. So you should only round your final answers. The next thing, the other way we might call for things is significant figures. This is one that it makes more sense. If I'm measuring things with just 2 digits, it doesn't make sense to use that many digits. 57 is not that accurate. It'd be like, oh, 1.539864964, unless we have information that that 57 is exact. If the 57 is something that we measured, it's only good, and that's all we know about it, 57. So it doesn't make sense to write a bunch of digits. With significant figures, you start with the leftmost, the first non-zero digit on the left, and you write that many figures. So if I say round to 5 significant figures, which we will abbreviate sig fig. Then you start with the first non-zero digit on the left and write 5 digits. So we would write 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one would be is 8. That would be the 5th significant figure, but the 6 says 8 should become a 9. There's 5 significant figures. There's 5 digits written. When we wrote 1.540, that's 4 significant figures, because that's the number of digits that we wrote. So the 1.540, that's 4 significant figures. See, this is where I have to be careful not to smear them, the ink. .54 is 3 significant figures. 1.5 is 2 significant figures. I always have to specify where I want to round. Until we establish more rules for deciding how many digits to keep, I just have to specify. I'll say round 5 significant figures, in which case this one would be 1.5399. Any questions? Comments? Snide remarks? Everybody looks very sad. You all look like this. That's because it's like 2:30. Well, this class goes till 2:50. And now it's even made worse because I said it's 2:30, but it's 2:25. And so I'm like, oh, it's 2:30. You're like, oh, it is? Oh, you dick. That's 5 more minutes. Any questions? Whatever space you fold around to, even if that last one is going to be a 0, you got to write them 0. It's more significant. It's important to write the 0. 1.540 is different than 1.54. It seems crazy because there's like nothing there. There is something there, a 0. We're saying for sure the next number is a 0. So when I say I weigh 240 pounds, that could mean I'm somewhere between 235 pounds and 244 pounds. That 0 is missing some information. But if I say I'm 240.0 pounds, now you know that in the 1 spot is definitely a 0. That make sense? That would mean to the nearest 10th, I'm 240 pounds. At that point, you might as well say exactly 240 pounds. Because once you get into like tenths of a pound, like just exhale or go to the bathroom. And then that'll start changing things. Yeah. That's why it's really weird, like at boxing weigh-ins. You have to be, it's like an upper limit. But it's okay if you're like well under that. And I just gotta think, it's like another 8 ounces gonna make a difference. Yeah, and in wrestling, it's even crazier because I knew some wrestlers when I was in high school, and they'd be like starving themselves. And they'd be like chewing on NoDoz and stuff like that. NoDoz is caffeine pills. So they'd be like doing caffeine pills. So they have energy. And then, you know. In my experience, it doesn't help enough. I drink plenty of coffee, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Sorry. Don't drink any soda. At a certain point, you don't get to have soda anymore. At a certain point, y'all gonna be so old that soda is just bad. And you're like, oh, you don't want to drink it. It's like, oh no, you regret drinking it. You're like, you drink soda and you're like, oh man, the fuck did I do? You're like, oh, what were you drinking? Yeah. Vodka? No, Coke. Whoa. Anyway, any questions? Note that when I say round to the nearest 100, if the answer was a 1.54, that is the only thing that I'm accepting. Because I want you to round properly. You can't put the one, if you put too much, if you put 1.540, that's going to be marked wrong. That's going too far. That's stating a precision that we don't have access to. So when I say round to the nearest 10th, you have to stop at 1.5. If you put 1.53, it doesn't matter that that's the next digit in the correct answer. You're not communicating the right number to me. I want the nearest 10. Sometimes I ask for very strange things just to see your level of commitment. Find the tangent of 57, round it to the nearest 1. That doesn't make any sense at all to go from 2 digits to just 1 digit. But I want to see if your rounding skills are up to snuff. And you would round this to 2 to see if you'll take this 1.57 barely past halfway and be willing to say, the spec says nearest 1 is 2. And then privately, you'd be like, oh, what an idiot asking for the nearest units when it's just going to produce 1 digit. But that was the spec. And as a good engineer, I just follow the spec that I'm doing. So sometimes I'll ask for weird things like that. Just accept it. Any questions, comments, snide remarks? All right, I don't have 250 today, so I've only got 230. That's going to do it for today. I'll see you all on Thursday. Everybody have a good day, and thanks for playing.